For life. Well, good morning and good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. It's a morning time for me, very early. It's a 4:31 a.m. here in South Central Texas, and I know Fabio is in Italy, so it's an afternoon, and we have such a what a great discussion we have today. Is Bitcoin the new gold? A wonderful topic of discussion, and we have great speakers from all over the world, investors, and it's such a pleasure to be able to have ability for me personally to step in and to moderate and to be a guest moderator, and especially for such a subject. Thank you, LA Token, and thank you, VCTV, for everything you do, for everything you've done for all of us during last year, and for now having such a strong network to where we do feel that waking up so early is worth it to connect with each other and to be part of this. So before we dive into the question of the topic of this conversation, I would love for you speakers to introduce yourself a little bit, so those viewers who have not met you yet can be a little bit familiar with knowing you. So Fabio, would you start? Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Fabio Scacciavillani. By training, I'm an economist. I have a PhD from the University of Chicago, and I started my career at the International Monetary Fund in Washington. Then I moved to Frankfurt at the European Central Bank to work on the launch of the euro. And afterwards, I moved to the private sector, Goldman Sachs in London, to do forecast and give advice on asset management to our main clients. In the mid 2000s, I moved to the Arabian Peninsula to work for sovereign wealth funds and other public institutions in the Gulf, first in Doha, then in Dubai, and my last experience was for 8 years as chief strategist of the Oman Investment Fund. And now I am a partner in a boutique investment bank in New York with offices in Dubai, in Hong Kong as well. And we help innovative companies, innovative startups to list on the over-the-counter market in New York. So to raise funds through the American capital market. That's my story.
Yes. Great. What a journey. And I'm sure you're very excited to share your input and what's happening with Bitcoin. And I mean, are we getting to a point to where it's going to replace gold? What an exciting times! What an exciting time zone. With your traditional expertise, the input will be so valuable. Louie, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Louie. I've lived kind of all over the world. I'm originally from the States. Now I'm actually back in the States last few months. And what happened was I started with Bitcoin probably when I saw, I think I was listening to a lot of you guys started about 2017 or maybe before. And I got started at a different end. I didn't get started with the banking and institutions. I got started with regular people. So people used to come up to me, friends and family, said, Louie, what is this Bitcoin? And it took me months. I remember trying to buy my first Bitcoin. You guys probably remember that. It was a horrible experience. Only now it's much easier with Coinbase and some other places. But so I got started, and what happens the last 4 or 5 years, I founded a group called a large community called GCBA, the Global Cryptocurrency and Blockchain Alliance. We've got thousands of members around the world. And what we do, we help people like you with families like yours get started to understand this space. So where a lot of you guys kind of work with the banks and institutions, which is incredible, I work with the everyday Joe, your mom, your grandma, just try to avoid a lot of the scams. Because one thing with Bitcoin, as you guys know, there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of money to be lose. So my goal, my outcome is to help people just, how do they get started in this space? How do they make money? And how do they keep their money, which is the most important. So that's me, and I'm very excited, very blessed to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Louie. Gary?
Yes, hello. Hello, everybody. It's great to see you today. Irina, it seems like it was just yesterday. Oh, it was yesterday. So it's great to be here. My name is Gary Fowler. Hi, Fabio, Dustin, Louie. So anyhow, my name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, 2 unicorns. I love artificial intelligence, and Irina's pushing me into crypto. I liking crypto. So anyhow, I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, one of the premier AI venture studios, curating companies from all over the world, bringing them through Silicon Valley. I've done a NASDAQ IPO. I was involved in the original management team at Click Software, and I'm the co-founder of Viva.ai, one of the top AI HR tech companies. Today, with a billionaire from Russia, David Yang is my partner, and I like to write a bit. I've written a little over 100 articles in the last year about artificial intelligence and entrepreneurship, and it's great to be here. Great to see some friends in the morning. It's nice to wake up to friends in the morning, that's for sure.
It is. It's such a pleasure. And Gary, think of it as a gentle, I don't know, gentle allure, as more than a push. Look back at you're such an innovator that obviously it's not a push. There's no need to push. It's just they're shining for your attention to look and attract to it, and probably calls you
It sounds like a new Porsche at a dealership.
Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Well, thank you, Lou. Thank you, Gary. Dustin, would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Originally, I kind of started out with a business and an education degrees, and that led me actually about 10 years ago moving overseas. So I've been living outside the US for about 10 years now. Due to COVID, I did spend a little bit of time back in the US, but now I'm currently back in Dubai. So I got into Bitcoin pretty heavily in the very beginning of 2017. And kind of living overseas, it allowed me to see a lot of the global markets and the global trends and what was going on and, the needs in different countries. So getting into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, it made perfect sense to me. And along with that, I actually started Danawi Group. I'm a founder of Danawi Group, and we partner with people as well for different businesses. So we did rooftop farming in Bangkok, Thailand. We've done education centers in China. Started to get into real estate. We're going to be building a Airbnb at the mountain in Colorado. So that'll be a nice little ski resort Airbnb. And now I'm sort of continuing to branch into similar with, Bitcoin education, helping people get signed up to it, helping, avoid the scams. I'm doing my best, especially in Dubai, but anywhere, with social media, it's wonderful to be able to educate people. So for me, I've sort of come from education and business. Cryptocurrency is pretty much pushing me towards future financial goals and hopefully continuing to invest in other companies, partner with other companies, kind of see where that goes. I'm excited for it.
Yes, absolutely. What an exciting time right now. We're living through this post-halvening and the growth cycle is upon us. I mean, it's truly exciting times to be part of the ecosystem and to be part of what is happening in a Bitcoin adoption specifically around the world. And being a third cycle personally for me, it really is exciting. It feels different than last times. There's so many things that are now established that were still a question. There's so much more work to do for all of us. And I think that's what's thrilling about crypto industry and about Bitcoin is that while there's been so much growth before and several cycles, there's so much more still ahead of us and so much more work to do. And so many people can come in through this growth cycle and be new to this, and you know, in 3 to 4 years we'll be speaking and they'll be saying, oh well, I came in during last growth cycle, and you know, we'll look back and all of that. So what a great industry, what a great times. And Nathaniel, are you online with us? I think we lost Nathaniel. Well, unfortunately, we lost Nathaniel. But you know, the question of, you know, whether the Bitcoin is going to be new gold or even really, you know, pass or, you know, equal to what gold is in value and then maybe surpass it. I think it's such a relevant question right now. I would like to remind that, you know, only seven years ago, the biggest question was whether it's going to be illegal, and everybody associated with Bitcoin is going to eventually go to jail or at least be in trouble, right? So at this point, now that we live in a new reality where public US companies diversify their treasury with Bitcoin, I think we have passed that threshold of, you know, understanding of what Bitcoin is and really see that traction that we all been dreaming and hoping about. But I want to go back to the topic of our conversation. So is Bitcoin the new gold? What do you see, Dustin? You're in Dubai, and Dubai is doing a great job, by the way. I know you guys resumed many gatherings, and you just had your blockchain week, and some of the friends went and traveled there, and they were really happy to be part of the ecosystem and kind of get back on the road a little bit. So from the perspective of what you see in Dubai, you know, do you think we're getting to a point to where we're going to see this be a new standard?
I believe so, yes. And the reason is Dubai is very cutting edge. So Dubai has completely jumped on board with blockchain. They've jumped on board. There is some kind of cryptocurrency they're speaking about using for the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. So, you know, they're definitely on the front line pushing into this new realm. If it comes to gold, obviously Dubai is very well known for its flash and the gold. You know, you could go to an ATM and you can get gold out of the ATM. It's just really not practical anymore. You know, gold essentially is kind of the old school. Bitcoin is the new school. A problem that we actually see coming from Dubai is every so often you'll see a news story come out about passengers on the plane attempting to smuggle gold, often from Dubai, back into India, and it's to avoid taxes. We know that Bitcoin you can literally, you know, put in your pocket on a hardware wallet and just go right through, cross the border, no big deal, no taxes. So just the feasibility of moving that amount of money, you know, people are going to jail for smuggling gold. Now, does that create a legal problem with Bitcoin? You know, there's potentially, you know, tax implications and moving that amount of money across borders and whatnot. They're working on that, of course, but definitely anybody who's looking to move their wealth across borders for any reason, it doesn't have to be illegal, right? Many countries just have overreaching control on how much money can be moved, and Bitcoin kind of solves that problem. And in Dubai, being a very cutting edge city, I believe they're really going to help kind of push the whole ecosphere into everything being digitized.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. And I really appreciate that you're sharing that that whole region is making such important steps in evolution of really cryptocurrencies and digitization of really capital markets. I know that it hasn't been much on the news, but the reality is such is that they're making very interesting active steps, and maybe even going to be leading some of the some of the tokenized securities on for global capital markets and such. Obviously, nothing have been set in stone, but I do know that that on the top level for that whole region, there are a lot of interesting open-minded solutions that are happening, and I do believe that there is a possibility for interesting competition to come in and maybe redefine the way our global markets work. And I know that Abu Dhabi and Bahrain and in Dubai, you guys are doing amazing job. And again, friends that came from Dubai are ready to go back because there's something going on in January too, so they're ready. And I'm really excited to go back there. Again, interesting what you said about the taxation. One of the benefits, I think, that why regulators do like Bitcoin is that you can't hide it. I mean, when you move it, when you move it not physically as far as your USB stick, as for say, with the value, but when you cash it out, it will be known. It's very hard to wash Bitcoin and hide Bitcoin, and if you're going to liquidate it and turn it into something else, it's impossible to run. And we saw that the people who hacked the old silicon, not the Silk Road, right? They got caught. Their addresses moved and they got caught very fast. I mean, it took a couple days and they were done. So I think that's positive. I'm hoping that regulators clearly seeing that, and that's kind of a way for them to battle that smuggling. But you're right, the transfer of money for when the vehicle for when there's a distress, I think is so important to have as a Bitcoin, because when a country's in Dubai, that's not a distress, but there are countries where people are in distress, and when you have to pick things up and flee, how much gold can you carry with you, right? Not much, but you can carry a stick in your body or on something, right? You can have that on you, and it's not the volume of how much is in that data is not dependent with the weight that you carry on your back. So thank you for reminding about that aspect. Fabio, from your perspective, or from coming from traditional capital markets, do you think that we are going to approach the time when we're going to look at Bitcoin as a new standard, as we've been looking for gold, or it's still too much big of a shoes to fill as far as the kind of a presence of the legacy for gold?
Gold and Bitcoin share a common feature. They are assets uncorrelated or perceived as to be negatively correlated with the value of fiat currencies. So when there is a fear of inflation, security problems, wars, catastrophes, and so on and so forth, people tend to buy gold, and now they also tend to buy Bitcoin as a safe haven. The problem with gold is that it's difficult to carry, and it's not so easy, to buy an ingot and then transport it and sell it, because if you go in Lugano, in Switzerland, you can buy a little ingot of gold in the shop, in the street. But if you buy it and then 1 minute later you go back and say, "Oh, I changed my mind, I want my money back," you pay a transaction cost of about 10%. So there is this element as well. Then it has to be physically, you have to keep it sealed in order to make sure that it's real 24 or 18 karat gold, etc., etc. So Bitcoin has a different order, faces a different set of problems. The issue of transferring bitcoins into a normal bank account. And in many countries, this is not possible. Because the bank asks you the source of funds, and if you say that you mine bitcoins, 8 years ago, they tend not to believe it. So it's a bureaucratical nightmare. So the Bitcoin can be spent. There are various ways in which you can spend bitcoins, but it's not as easy as spending dollars, euro, yen, and whatever else. So what do we stand as of now? We stand in a situation in which Bitcoin can be used to transfer value or as a store of value, but it lacks an economy based on Bitcoin, and it lacks a financial system based on Bitcoin. Why? Well, because the value of Bitcoin is not stable. So if you take a mortgage in Bitcoin, you're not sure how much you have to repay 10 years from now in terms of dollars, euro, and fiat currencies, which is the means of payment which most people receive, in which most people receive their salary. So we are in this transition, in a phase in which Bitcoin has become an asset uncorrelated with the assets in the traditional financial center, in the traditional fiat currencies world, but it has not yet found a way to define a stable value for the foreseeable future. And therefore it is, as of now, more of a, I would say, more of a an asset that is, which has its foundations based on the trust that people have in Bitcoin. And then the true is, and this is true for most other, or I would say all other cryptocurrencies. So we'll see how this evolves once all the 21 million pieces of Bitcoin will be mined, if they will ever be mined. At that point, we'll have a stable supply of this currency, of this means of payment, and maybe this could provide an anchor for its value. For the time being, we need to wait and see until the situation stabilizes, and in the meantime, there are a lot of enthusiasts who would, push for its broader acceptance, but it's not currently a credible threat to the traditional, well-established financial architecture.
Absolutely, not yet, although it's becoming slowly and surely. And as we like to say in the industry, in code we trust. And so that is something that has been something that has been carrying us forward, many of us for many years. Is in the end of the day, the math works, and we believe in trust math, and in code we trust. And I do think that foundation, I agree with you, that it's a core foundation for there. But as you said, it is always worth of wondering about the banking, because the banking is still not not solved problem for many people. and there are many barriers, but slowly but surely we're overcoming them. And discussing these barriers is, I think, one
But
of the
can I add one little piece of information? Even gold doesn't have an anchor. I mean, how would you be able to determine that, I don't know, in a year from now, the price of gold will have gone up or down by 10, 20, 15%, 50%? So gold has some industrial use and it's used for jewelry, but most of its value is determined by the central bank because most physical gold, is owned by central banks. So it's a bit paradoxical, no, that people buy gold in order to escape the central bank monetary policy. Therefore, these are assets. Gold is a commodity which is subject to fluctuations, and it's true for Bitcoin as well. So, at the end of the day, these fluctuations need to be forecasted to be sure that you will be holding the value of your wealth.
Absolutely. Coming from the industry, I do, though, must admit that I do love the wild rides with Bitcoin. And there's something about that up and down cycle that is quite exciting. But I think it's just kind of that wild nature of Bitcoin that, in the end of the core, does attract a lot of us. A lot of us people that's been in the industry for a while and keeps us in it, because we know that in the darkness there is a light. We do believe in happening, and we do believe in the four cycles. Gary, what do you think? What is your insight from your perspective? Do you think that as we are approaching bigger market cap for Bitcoin and starting to dance with gold, do you think that there are threats that coming out that can really change the way the Bitcoin kind of adoption is going? And specifically, do you think that quantum will disrupt kind of the security of Bitcoin stability? What's your insight on this subject?
Well, first of all, when you get groups like Citibank saying that they got a price target of 318,000 by December 2021, and then you get JP Morgan talking about $146,000 target. What it does, it's what do we call that? Effect Pygmalion, right? The self-fulfilling prophecy. So we got that going. I've ridden through several unique situations. We had a company, I was involved in the .com bubble, and one of the companies that we were working with, stock went from $6 to $20,000 a share, and then went down to 20 cents. So the only thing I can tell you is that, you got to be careful when you have irrational exuberance. It's there's a Dutch tulip phenomenon. The tulips were sold for a lot of money, and then when the bottom came out of it, it came way out. So I'm encouraged. I mean, I think it's great in terms of, a number of my friends have made a lot of money in it. My partner has made a good bit of money in Bitcoin, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I just am cautiously optimistic. I'm not sold yet. And so we'll see what happens with it. When it goes from, was it 10,000, a little over 10,000 to 37,000. I mean, it's incredible. And if it goes to 300, I mean, maybe putting a little bit in Bitcoin is not a bad idea, but I'm not sure I would bet the farm. I don't mind the up and down, the fluctuations. The problem is whenever there's irrational exuberance, there's something else driving the market, and it makes me nervous, really, really nervous. So I won't buy stocks on that side of it, and I won't buy real estate on that side of it. I like to have it settle down a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, if we think of, I agree with you. And when we think about balancing investing in Bitcoin, ideally we buy during the deflation cycle when things are coming down, and and then liquidate at the top of the market. I mean, that's the dream, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Buy Bitcoin at the all-time low and in the low cycle, and ride it all the way up to the all-time high in the new cycle, of the top of the new cycle, and yet again liquidate on the bottom, and I mean liquidate and then rebuy, at the bottom, at the new bottom again. So now it's much easier said than done. you know, there are many different emotional decisions that are playing role in that. And as you said, usually people start really looking and getting, especially new people to the industry, start looking at it at the time when the height's already at its maximum. So they
Yeah.
end up.
It's like feeding fish. It's like, when you go into fish and you throw a little bit of some food in, one starts to bite, they all start to bite, right? It comes as this phenomenon. It's kind of a,
Right, and then unfortunately, many newcomers bite at such a height to where when it starts deflating, they liquidate at the loss. They don't have
exactly.
they don't have enough persistence and knowledge to know what happening is and what are different cycles. They're not experts in understanding what it's like to do your Bitcoin treasury management, and they usually liquidate at the worst time and end up
Yeah, they buy high, they sell, they sell when it's low.
Right.
And it happens a lot, and people get nervous, and you got to be willing to ride it out. So,
Absolutely.
but whenever something goes up that much, the only thing I can tell you is that there's sometimes irrational exuberance. And I know Fabio, remember Alan Greenspan a long time ago. That I remember the quote, and so I think it's a great idea. I think having a global currency is amazing. I have issues of, as I've talked about before, with cybersecurity. And, when there's this kind of money out there, the bad guys are bad guys and bad ladies are looking at where there's opportunities. So if you feel confident, you got the right kind of, you're using Coinbase, you feel confident about it, it's great. I know we got involved in some Bitcoin type situations. We put about $5 million in, and not exactly Bitcoin. And the thing is, the market changed in another direction, and we ended up getting out of it. But so I had some experience with it.
And a lot of people, for example, ICO market, they were mistaking that even tokens are Bitcoin, right? And so they thought that they buying Bitcoin when they were buying, a token.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, and then you got some of those interesting scenarios out there. So the good news is this democratization opportunity allows you to do transactions. I mean, we've done Bitcoin transactions ourselves with GSD in terms of payments. I like it. As long as you know how to use it, it's great. If you don't know how to use it and you make a mistake or you lose your digital wallet, you got a serious issue.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were on one of the shows, I can't think of his name. He bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin at like $1, and he lost his computer, and it was on his computer. And so he was telling the story. I bet he's kicking himself now. Let me tell you. But
right. And being in the industry, you do learn firsthand. Eventually, everybody learns what it's like to lose that key, and it's hard to recover that. Louie, I see you connected back, so
Hey,
and it's a better connectivity. So good job, you figured out a better connectivity. What is your insight? What do you think? Are we approaching are we approaching time, this maybe growth cycle to where we're going to pass gold, or it's a little bit too much of a reach and that legacy is still going to be there with gold?
So first off, I took a lot of notes. I appreciate, Dustin, Fabio, Gary, even you, Irina, and thank God you're here. Otherwise, it would just be boring, a bunch of guys, So everyone's zooming in on you, Irina. But let me share again, because the different viewpoints and what I love about La Token is they're bringing in different people. We're not all from the same industry. Our backgrounds are different. Our vision of what we're seeing is different. So I like to share from the consumer investor standpoint. First thing is Bitcoin, the new digital gold. I would say on a macro level, on a bigger level, no, it's far away, 5-10 years from it. On a micro level, yes, but again, it's like what you guys were saying, Bitcoin can be used to pay stuff. But who's using Bitcoin now to pay anything? We're using it to save it, right? No one's gonna buy that cup of coffee or anything with Bitcoin. No one, because you're like, my God, I might lose, $500 on that cup of coffee because tomorrow, it could go on. So a couple of things I just want to share, and I'm sharing this more because all the panelists, they know this stuff, but I'm thinking there's probably some consumers who are watching this. And the thing is, you have to be an investor first. So in my group of companies, Modern Wealth Academy and the Global Cryptocurrency and Blockchain Alliance, we teach asset allocation. So we have a model called 352, right? 30% in security type assets, 50% in growth assets, and 20% we put in these high risk, high reward. And part of that's Bitcoin, and part of that's like, let's say gold might be part of my security assets. I might take, instead of having, let's say, 10,000 in gold, I might put, say, 5,000 gold and 5,000 I'll put in Bitcoin. And you see that in the markets now that, billions of dollars are moving out of gold funds and moving into cryptocurrency funds. And I think where people make the mistake is you don't sell your house and put everything into Bitcoin. There are some crazy people that do it, but none of us on this panel who have a lot of experience would do that. Raise your hand if you would do that. None of us would do it. We would do it. None of us would do it. We'd be like, no way, right? Your wife would kill you. Everyone would kill you. So in terms of that, now the other part, okay, in terms of making money, what gets me excited, what gets me out of bed at 5 a.m. this morning to do this call is any time. And again, Fabio, you would agree with this, is anytime there is some disruptive or structural change to the economy. And Gary, you agree that there's a lot of money to be made. And Gary, you know this, when the internet came out and all those disbelievers, but you knew, Gary, that it was a structural change, that eventually everyone's going to, just like Amazon, Jeff, he knew everyone said books. Why do people buy books online? It's so heavy, blah, blah, blah. But what happened? He knew that people would do online shopping. And what happened with Amazon this year? The virus, everything digital, and again, so I look at it, because this is a disruptive change, I get excited. You can make a lot of money. We are eventually going to go on, and I don't know if Bitcoin's the eventual thing, but we're going to go more online with these type of currencies. You can see more countries get involved with it. But I agree with Fabio, there is going to be more regulation. I like regulation. Because it makes it standard, because there are so many scams out there, and the challenge is most people don't know. And Irina, you said people confuse a token with Bitcoin. And there's so many Bitcoin gold, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin star, Bitcoin universe, all this stuff, that this is the new Bitcoin. You see all the ads, and they use Dr. Oz and they use all these other, endorsements. I think the boxer, he had a cryptocurrency. What's that guy? Floyd, Paris Hilton had a cryptocurrency. And the challenge is people get hurt, So again, I think, so just to recap, I think before you invest in Bitcoin, you have to invest in Bitcoin education. You got to understand the concepts. You got to understand investing. All of us here, we're okay with the rise and fall because we understand that's part of investments. I think all of us here, like, hey, if it goes back down, if it goes from 37,000, if it goes back down to 15, a lot of us are going to be buying in. But how are we going to buy in? Are we going to sell our house? No. I teach all my students, and I'm sure you guys do it too. Every month, dollar cost average, you put a couple thousand in or whatever it is. Put a small amount in so you can ride those waves. But again, I think too many consumers, especially in the US, they think because of the Robinhood mentality, you guys are familiar with Robinhood, right? They think that they'll get rich tomorrow. The challenge with that is most people on Robinhood and those platforms, nothing wrong with those platforms, think they're great ideas, but what happens is people lose the sight of being a long-term investor. What do they become? They become a gambler. and you go to Vegas and other places like that, and you see the highs and lows, right? And I think it's a drug. So for me, I would say if people focus on education and they think themselves as an investor, and what does an investor do? And Fabio, you know this, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, and I think the other thing too is you have to look at your own personal your environment portfolio and say, does this make sense for me to put in or to hold a little bit? Because I see a lot of people over leveraging. I see people in my family over leveraging. Right now, Elon Musk, it's TSLA, those call options, Tesla call options. I mean, it's doing almost better than Bitcoin, right? It's like, Bitcoin, Tesla. The challenge is, as an investor, do you sell your car and your house and put it in Tesla? Who knows where it's going to be 3, 4, 5 years from now? And are you willing to ride the ride? So for me, just a recap: if you're out there and you're watching this, invest in education, come to La Token and listen to more of these, and then just start out with a small amount. What I love about Bitcoin, unlike the traditional stock market, anyone can get started. You can get started with a $100 bill, which I love, and get a low exposure. If you want to get started with Amazon, it's a lot harder with the $3,000 a share, some of these other ones. But again, I have Amazon, I have Apple, I have all these other things. And I'm sure raise your hand if you have other invest besides Bitcoin. And that's the beauty of this. I think if too many people think it's all or none with Bitcoin. And I think if you look at it as an investor has many different assets. Gary, you've got how many companies? You got multiple companies. So you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You have multiple companies that help feed your strategy. So that's it, Irina. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, and
can I say something? Yeah. See, when you have disruption, you have a lot of money to be made, but you have also a lot of money to be lost. Yeah. Because you rightfully point at the internet and the disruption that it brought. And then we had the dot-com bubble, and a lot of people lost a lot of money there, and they have never recovered it. Likewise, we always think of the guy who bought, Bitcoin at $1,000 or at $1 and made a fortune. How many guys bought the Bitcoin at 20,000, 19,000, and then they sold it at 5,000? So again, the picture needs to be looked at in its entirety, not. But again, it's the innovation with time will bring benefits. The internet has brought benefits, but it's never a smooth ride. And diversification is one of the most difficult tasks in wealth management, because you need to understand what's correlated with what and what's negatively correlated with something else. And often, when you have a crisis, when you have a major catastrophe like the pandemic, all correlations go to one, and because all assets go plunge. So the search for the safe haven in front of whatever adversity is extremely difficult. Besides, correlation is a snapshot of point in time. It's not a movie. So that correlation can change in a flash. So when you think to be hedged, in reality, you are not. So again, it's a complex world. It's that's why most people pay guys like us to give advice. But certainly, it's there are no easy solution and no easy recipes to be followed.
So Fabio, I agree everything you say. I also don't agree with everything you say. And I think we should go on tour, Fabio, because we're totally two sides of a coin, right? And that's what you want. And that's why this is you, because we can agree to not agree. So I say the people who got in at 20,000, why did they get in? Did they think it's going to go to 30 and they're trying to make a quick buck? All of us are long-term investors. I don't think any of us, if it goes up to 50,000, I don't think any of us are going to sell because we believe the long-term of where it's going to go. Just like with Amazon, Apple, any asset, if you get in for the short term, 90% of the time you might lose your money because, and especially with COVID today, listen, the last 8 or 9 months changed my whole outlook on life, not just investments, on life. I think we all agree on that. It's not about the fancy watches and the cars and stuff. That was more about family. And I used to have a small residence. Now I got a large residence with a big office, and now I'm paying 5 times more for internet, right? And I got the fancy screens around me because it's different. It's different like that. So I agree everything you say. I think what happens is when people get into Bitcoin, so many people get on because their banker or their cab driver, or they hear it on the news. Listen, if you hear something on CNBC or the news, nothing against that. You still got to do your own due diligence.
Yeah, but that's my point. Exactly. It's not easy just to jump on a train and
it's not.
get to the destination.
It's not. And Dustin will tell you it's not easy too. Dustin, I think we should connect after this, Dustin, because you love education. I love education. And I think that's where people fail. And what I do now, I'm not a gold expert. I'm not an expert on a lot of stuff, but I'll subscribe. I'll pay and say a lot of people don't want to pay. Right? If you, so I will pay to get Fabio your newsletter or whatever it is. Now, I might not agree with you. I might get 2 of your other things. So I usually, if I want to go in the new asset class, I might get, say, Gary's newsletter, Dustin, and Fabio's, and I'll say, okay, which one of these they agree on? Because I don't want to understand AI or robotics. Might as well get the best guy in there if I'm going to make an investment. And again, when I make an investment, if Gary, so let's say, I'm sure Gary's raised money before, right? Gary, raise your hand if you raised money before. And I'm sure you say, okay, well, based on whatever, it's $1 million investment and we think a turnaround in 2 years. Now my thing, okay, I could probably lose the $1 million because, and it might take 5 years to get back, because I'm very conservative in my outlook, and what happens, the other thing people don't realize, what happens, what do you do if it doesn't hit your target? How do you save that, salvage it? The reason why people were selling, buying at 20 and selling at 5,000 because they lost faith. They didn't understand Bitcoin. They thought it was, they thought they can get in. Their neighbor probably told them about it, and it was probably some MLM they got into too. And that's the challenge with this space. There's a lot of MLMs. Not saying MLMs are bad, but there's a lot of them that, it's all about commission, referrals, and all that kind of stuff. And we know that. I mean, One Token and some of these other ones who raise billions of dollars and they disappear like that. Mining clubs, right?
So the consensus, what it sounds that the consensus are, it can be very risky and you have to be very careful. And please do not sell your house to buy Bitcoin or invest in, don't make drastic decisions when you're making an investment. I do agree that buying every month is just such a great strategy. One of the things that I really like, the advice that I give to people is this. I say, look, go to Coinbase or whatever, just Google Bitcoin exchange, and the top one, I'm pretty sure, will be Coinbase for US citizens. Just go buy $100. That's all. Don't make drastic decisions. You'll buy $100. You'll feel it. It will be in your bones. You'll become cool, and you're not risking your life savings. And then you can start understanding, once you participate in the ecosystem, you're going to start asking questions. You're going to see, eventually you learn about happening, you'll learn about cycles, you'll kind of start learning and understanding. And if just, instead of going out to eat that once a month or once a week, if you go out and eat all the time, just one time a month, take that money and put that into Bitcoin, or maybe exercise other cryptocurrencies to expand your knowledge and to make sure that you don't stay behind. And then become the part of the cool crew of people that actually are holders during those times when it is cooler. Because remember, and I can tell you guys from my own experience, you become really cool and sophisticated to being like, oh my God, what are you insane and are you fool to be part of this industry still, right? What are you doing? Everybody is leaving the ship, and there everyone is leaving. Why are you still stirring the ship? Where are you going? So, but as with anything that is investments, it's important to be careful, and it's important to please do not sell your houses. And I'm talking to you viewers, just don't sell your house to invest in things. Keep your house. Live in your house, and then make small steps, incremental steps toward your financial freedom and independence. And remember too, is that anything that comes in fast can go away even faster. And when that goes away fast, the floor behind you opens up and everything shatters, and it's much harder to build upon it, because then that's something that is hard emotionally and physically to recover from. So, but we have 9 minutes. So what I would love for you guys to do is to do closing thoughts on what would be your, how would you expand, and what would be your advice to investors, right? So now we have consumers, then we actually have investors that already invest in all kinds of different assets. And if they have not invested in cryptocurrencies, what is the best way for them to invest in Bitcoin specifically? I would love to start with you, Dustin, and then also what's the best way to for everybody to find you?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. One thing I want to say, I have a little disagreement on talking about dollar cost averaging and things like that. That's a wonderful way to make profits, but I think it's quite obvious that we are probably going to be one of the largest bull runs for Bitcoin. So it's much better, in my opinion, to get your money in now. And that kind of comes from numbers. I love numbers. And for us to hit 100,000 by the end of 2021, we're expecting to see about a $5,000 to $6,000 increase in the Bitcoin price every single month. So if you dollar cost average, put a little bit in each week, unless you're putting in thousands per week, you're going to actually be kind of falling behind. So I believe we're in a full bull run. I think it's a wonderful time to get invested in it. And sort of the trend that you can look at of building this ecosystem is that the US Treasury is now allowing banks to do payments with blockchains and with stablecoins. So banks are in on it now. Banks will actually hold your Bitcoin for you. Not that I recommend that, but they will. So you can see that banks are coming into the ecosystem. The other thing about being a threat to gold has a $9 trillion market cap. Bitcoin, which started this entire cryptocurrency world, basically all the cryptocurrencies at this point just passed 1 trillion in market cap. Now, Bitcoin holds, I believe, about 800 billion of that. So the leader, Bitcoin, it is catching up to gold quickly. So gold is about 500 years at $9 trillion market cap. Bitcoin is at 12 years old with almost $1 trillion. So it's coming for gold. Everything is going digital. I think Louie could probably agree with, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, video games, payment systems, things like that. We're moving into this fully digitized world. So the banks are on board with it. He mentioned JP Morgan, Citibank. They have some very high estimates for what we could do this year. You can use it at, I believe, any Visa or MasterCard terminal. We have debit cards that you can attach to your Bitcoin account. So you can go buy that coffee if you want. In Japan, it's very vogue to go pay with Bitcoin. It's the cool thing to do. And a lot of people have our Bitcoin story where the pizza Bitcoin now is about $100 million pizza was the original purchase. So many of us have those Bitcoin stories. So yes, we're not really spending it, but many places they are. In El Salvador at Bitcoin Beach, Busan, South Korea, you can pay with Bitcoin. So it's coming around the world. There is 12,000 Bitcoin ATMs around the world. So you see the trend, ATMs, banks, payment systems, it's global. And so right now we are definitely in a bull run for maybe the next 12 to 16 months. So I would say don't dollar cost average. I would say put in what you can right now. I'm very irresponsibly long. I did not sell my house, but maybe that second or third house, that money is in Bitcoin. The best way, yeah, just Google it. It depends where you are. In Dubai, a lot of people like Bit Oasis. In America, Gemini and Kraken, they have a lot more coverage in all 50 states than Coinbase. Coinbase is still illegal in some states. And Coinbase also works really closely with the US government. So that might be a concern if you have privacy concerns and you're getting into Bitcoin. So any of those, look it up in your local region. And last case scenario, you can go to somebody with Bitcoin and just do person to person. You know, that's another popular method. You kind of get around the know your customer and anti-money laundering laws. So check your local country's laws on that. I know in America it's frowned upon if you're not a registered money transmitter. So be careful in that realm. But definitely I would say get into it sooner than later. It's going up, you know, thousands every single day.
And what's the best way to find you?
The best way to find me is probably on Twitter, which is @Dustin Watchman. And as Louie was saying, if you have any questions, how to get started or this or that, just inbox me. Every day I'm, you know, helping people with advice, where to go, what country they're in, whatnot. So Twitter @Dustin Watchman.
Thank you, Dustin. And thank you for sharing your insight. And you're right, we're in a growth cycle. So, you know, ideally you want to would have bought it last year, you know, and watching it grow. But it's really important to be able to participate in understanding what is happening. And I think that aspect of education is the key. And you're right. You know, there are many ways of doing it. Just make sure, be careful. And there's always experts. I think that reach out to many speakers that we have on VCTV who really specialize in the industry. And I'm sure we're all happy to assist to you in your transition. And also there are hedge funds too. So if you are actually making a sizable investment and you do not want to handle your own keys and you don't know how it works, just participate in one of the good hedge funds that have established history. You know, so that's always an option. Gary, do you have your last advice, or your last kind of a wisdom that you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. You know, there was a movie many years ago called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And Sean Connery said to Indiana, Harrison Ford, you know, choose wisely. So the only thing I can tell you, I've been in the markets, I've been invested heavily. And during the dot-com boom, I was personally invested in that one stock that went up to 20,000 from 6. So, you know, just, you know, whenever there's this kind of irrational exuberance and it's going up that fast, you just have to be cautious. And like you said, you got to be careful because you don't want to buy in at whatever, 37,000 or whatever it is today and find out tomorrow it's 20 and, you know, then sell. So you don't want to get, you know, in that kind of situation. So it's encouraging that the Citibank's got a target of 318,000 by the end of 2021. JP Morgan's got a target of 146,000. So those things are encouraging because again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy and people do it, it'll drive the market. So that part's interesting, but it's, you know, just be cautious. You can reach me, by the way, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'd love to hear from you. You know, I'm particularly interested in artificial intelligence and quantum computing. So we curate companies from around the world. And for us, that's our Bitcoin, by the way, because AI is the new electricity and quantum computing is too. So that's where, you know, we create our own little fiefdoms. So anyhow, reach out. Love to hear from people. Thanks, Irina. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary, and thank you so much for your continued contribution to the CTV and on so many different. I know you also you're part of a discussion at 4:30 a.m. Central and at 6 a.m. often, and also at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. as well, because they have 4 sessions every single day on weekdays. And thank you for continually contributing your time and sharing your experience and empowering. I know for me, you have empowered me throughout years many, many times, just in even just that mental state of the mind to, GSD, Gary.
Oh, I love it. I love it. There you go.
Yeah,
And I even got my space shirt on for you today.
Oh, thank you. So exciting. On a side note, I visited a Firefly in our Texas space transportation company, and it's so magnificent to stand next to big rockets. Ooh, so exciting. So exciting. But it's a space, so we'll talk about that subject next time. Fabio, closing thoughts, and what's the best way to find you?
The best way is on LinkedIn or Facebook, Twitter, or I have an email account, which is very easy, is fabio.scacciavillani, so my first name dot my last name @gmail.com, so it's very simple. My final thoughts are that Bitcoin has a great merit. It has demonstrated that you can have a currency, a means of payment, a store of wealth, which is completely based on blockchain. So this has opened up have paved the way for a revolution in the handling of wealth and transactions. I think that the next challenge will be to devise a currency, cryptocurrency, which has a link, an anchor to some real world physical good or service. It could be 1 kilowatt hour of energy, of electricity. It could be 1 giga of download. It can be something else. At that point, you will be able to create a self-sustaining economic system based on a currency outside the domain of central banks. And the next challenge at that point will be to build around it a financial system with regulation, with hopefully self-regulatory elements, and this will be the step into the future. It will take some time. We're working on it. We are trying to devise some stable coin that is not linked to fiat currency, because that's a contradiction in terms. We're trying to find a stable coin, to devise a stable coin that could be linked, I don't know, to a barrel of oil. So the world is an exciting place, and we hope to be part of this next evolution of cryptocurrencies.
Thank you, Fabio. And Louie, to you, closing thoughts, and what's a great way to find you? What's the best way?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn and just say that you saw me on this, I'll send you, I've got a free course. My assistant can send you a free course, a few videos to help you get started in the space. First off, you guys like rockets. I saw Gary and Irina. I'm actually in Florida, and the launch pad is a couple miles. So tonight they've got a big, SpaceX has got a big launch, and I love rockets and space. And if you remember, kind of like it's when the 80s and 90s, it was huge, and then it kind of went away and it's come back again. And that's kind of like Bitcoin. Bitcoin was huge a few years ago, went away the last couple of years, it's come back again. I would say, and I agree and I disagree with everyone on this panel, which I love, right? Because we can all have our own opinions, our own strategies, and we're open to sharing them. You know, unlike, say, politics, where you can't share openly without getting a fist bump, we can openly share stuff and it's okay. And as a consumer wins, because the consumer gets to see, you know what, I like some of Dustin's ideas. I don't like Louie, I like some of Fabio's ideas. It's okay, and it just opens up their mind. So I would tell everyone, get exposed, get a small piece of exposure, whether it's through a hedge fund, whether it's through Coinbase, whether it's through Binance, Bittrex, just get exposed to it, because I believe, like, you know, I come from traditional investing to consumer investing. And if you do the paper trade account, you know, they teach you how to do paper trade. Paper trading is not the same as putting a little bit money in. Even if you have, like you said, Dustin, Irina, $100 in, it's a whole different game. You're like, oh, you know, and Bitcoin goes up double and you're like, oh, I'm a millionaire. Even though you only have 100 to 200, you feel part of the process. It's just like with sports, right? Once you buy the hat of the sports team, Chicago Bulls, you feel like, you know, I'm part of with Michael Jordan. So, and the last thing I would share, which is what I do for my family, if you have kids, I've got a little girl, you know, buy them some. They're the ones who are really going to reap the reward, because my daughter, you know, she's 7 now. She's not going to, you know, touch it for another 10, 20 years. That's where she's going to, when she opens it up one day, her wallet, she'd be like, oh my God, thank you, Daddy. You know, so that's where I think you think. I would say, kind of like Fabio said, and Gary, look at a longer time frame. Don't think about next month, and Dustin, you said the same thing, or next week. Think about the next 5, 10, 15 years. And how can I start to put a little bit in now, just like a tree? If I can put a little bit in now and water it, you know, whether it's every month like I do, or every year like Dustin does, or whatever it is, you water it and just let it grow. And then you'll see in 5, 10 years. So that's it. You know, get exposure and put a little bit away for your kids and other people you love.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Louie. And I would love to add to that too. If you do have kids, educate them. Don't just put them away for them.
Yes.
Let them grow up and understand what it is, but really include them in the process of why you're doing and what is happening. It is such an exciting journey to have the discussion with your children and to, you know, to answer their whys, because they are going to ask you why. Why is this happening, right? Like, why is it going up? Why is it going down? How does it work? And what is it? And that really is a great way for you to really have those answers, because when your kid asks you a question, if you do not have an answer, you're going to go and fetch that answer and answer to your child, and then probably even, you know, continue answering those questions. And that's how we educate our children. So it's such a beautiful aspect of that, what we do when we have our children, if we can include them in our decision making, and you know, they grow up to be educated, and then they know what's going on. Before I let you go, gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for being part of this discussion. It is definitely very exciting times. Now, we do not know what's going to happen, but based on the history and based on the Bitcoin design, specifically Bitcoin, we see a very big growth cycle upon us. And I would like to remind all of you, you gentlemen and speakers, the viewers as well, do remember that the ethos of Bitcoin is to create financial inclusion for people all around the world. And that financial inclusion starts with you taking that step and participating in, you know, buying a Satoshi. Buy little sats, right? Just a little portion of it. Maybe $100 is too much. Buy smaller, buy less. It doesn't matter. But be part of that financial inclusion. And to me, there's an aspect of investment, but then there's an aspect of participating in a collective upgrade to a better financial vehicles, and that happens through us participating in this. And you know, this is going to be an interesting test for Bitcoin too, because it was designed to provide stability during uncertain times, economic times, and as many of you know, some questionable things are happening all over the world. So we will see about that. But just remember, in code we trust, and math never lies. And so be smart, be consistent, persistent, and and keep an eye on Bitcoin, and make sure that you stay tuned with VCTV, because so many investors and so many experts from all the way around the world discussing so many exciting subjects, from Bitcoin to space to AI to quantum to construction tech. I mean, the subjects and topics of conversations that we have every single day on this wonderful channel and the network are amazing. So thank you for that, VCTV. Thank you, LA Token, for the creation of VCTV, and for your continued support, and for what you do in the crypto industry as well. And every single team member, thank you as well. And again, back to you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time, for contributing that, because that's, I would argue that more valuable than any Bitcoin, than any currency, than any assets is exactly that. It's your time, and sharing that with each other, and sharing that with people around the world who are willing to learn. To me, that's what it's all about. That's how we build a really true inclusion and democratization of opportunities and democratization of investments. So have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in upcoming episodes. And to you viewers, go to LA Token website, click on VCTV, and you can find the list of all the speakers. So don't hesitate, contact us. We are here for you, and we want to help you, and we want to assist you. And if you're an investor, jump on in and be part of our discussions. I promise, once you do it, you're not going to want to leave, because we're family. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you, when it's safe, gathered up together, and have a wonderful in-person discussions. What a dynamic time that will be when we can gather in person.